Hi. Um, we've got three presentations this evening, and I'm doing the first one here. There's been some confusion about the different types of installs we do and how they're budgeted and how we pay for them. And I'm just going to go over the three main types of installs we do. The first one is first one I want to talk about is NYCHA, which is the New York Housing Authority. We've only done one big install with them, or one or two installs with NYCHA, and the bad thing about NYCHA is we haven't figured out how to get money off them, and we also haven't figured out how to connect the tenants. Being managed by the city, there's a lot of red tape we have to go through to do these installs. But our main hub in Brooklyn is the Vernon Hub, and that's a NYCHA building. And we've spent a fortune to do this hub, and we also do access points on the ground for NYCHA, and we make reports for them each month. So it's a lot of work's gone into this, and zero money back from NYCHA. Yeah, and another thing's just happened is that we've got a lease with a solar provider for rooftops, and this has worked out quite well because the solar provider is doing all of the red tape stuff, and we've just been given a lease for 5 new locations. I think it's around 30 buildings, but obviously we wouldn't put antennas on every building. But it's pink houses in East New York, Parkside houses in the Bronx, and 3 different locations in Staten Island. So Staten Island's interesting. We don't have any presence there at all, so this is something we'll have to figure out. And the other city housing authority is HPD, Housing Preservation and Development, and we've done a lot of buildings with them, and it's so great to do HPD because it's all independently managed, and the management companies are usually really easy to work with, and they pay us for the installs. So everything we do with HPD is paid in full, and we get money to support the installs afterwards. So Grand Street was the first one we did. That's 4 towers and possibly a 5th. Lily House in the Bronx, we just completed last year, and Belmont we're still finishing off in the Bronx, and we're working with this management company, Fifth Avenue Committee, that has a huge number of buildings. None of them are towers really, but so far we've got 14 buildings with them, and so they pay us to connect, and they give us money to support the installs afterwards. And we've got a couple more bids we're waiting on as well. So HPD is a really big deal for us, and yeah, it brings, we get about $11,000 a month to look after the HPD buildings. That compares with $17,000 we get from the individual installs. So, and it's creeping up, so it's going to be around 50-50 with HPD and with individual donations pretty quickly. And they're not too hard to do because we get their contractors, or sometimes we get a contractor to do the cabling. So we just do the main panel in the basement and the rooftop, and it's the main part of the work. Nearly all these buildings were negotiated by me, so I've been doing a lot of work on this, and I don't think people have realized how it's really half of what the mesh does is these HPD buildings. And for individual installs, there's a thing I want to talk about, the install fee, which I think is really complicated, overly complicated, and it's really difficult with people, coming at the budget monthly to come up with a big install fee. So yeah, and when they do it, they see the monthly donation and they opt out. And so I would like to change the install fee. You know, um, it's overly complicated. I think you finish the install and you show them this page and they've got to pick all these different options, and it's overly complicated. And I look, we're scared pick the wrong ones. So what I would like to do is my suggestion is to change the general install to just 30 a month for everybody. And we already have a 40 a month version of this, and then make it that they have to pay that 30 a month for 10 months to pay off the install. And then it continues on if they do nothing, or they can change it to whatever they want to donate. And I feel that this will bring in more money because people will be donating. They're already subscribed, so they can keep donating monthly afterwards. We've had problems where people that actually we know can afford it are not donating monthly. So yeah, 30 a month for a standard install. That's the main option, and I include a 60 a month for work from home. And some people, their business pays for their internet, and they're working from home, so they need to show their work a receipt, and they just get the money back. So we've had requests for that before, but not many people will do that option. And also, there's a city requirement for ISPs to have a $15 option for low income people, and strangely, we don't have that. So I think we should offer that as well, a $15 per month for low income, so that if we, this is my suggestion, it simplifies the what they see when they go to pay the 30 a month, and just the three simple options there. So it's a big change, and we have to be careful it's not going to affect how much we earn per month. But this is, I've been thinking a long time about this, and this is what I've come up with. Thank you. So any questions? Yeah, you can clap if you want.
Yeah. So if we transition to the $30 a month fee for the first 10 months, how would that get? How would we let them know after 10 months?
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, right. I was thinking about the mic, not actually.
I just see the echo from the speaker.
Yeah. So if we're doing $30 a month for the first 10 months, then would we email them and be like, oh, you can change it if you feel like it? Is that kind of the idea?
Well, yeah, in the 10 months, it's up to them whether they continue paying 30 or they switch to 20 or stop. Yeah, we can email them.
Yeah. I was just thinking, well, what are you thinking through?
We can send them an email.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, as our costs continue to potentially change and go up with hardware and stuff, I think having it be just a monthly recurring amount that we can then, if for instance we had to start charging more for the equipment, all of a sudden it costs $300 per install, we can just make it 11 months or 10 months. Seems like a sustainable way to deal with that if it were to happen.
Have there been, in the past, when you've been involved with NYC Mesh, have there been any statements made about the costs and monthly costs, and if they would be dynamic or static during your time with NYC Mesh?
I've talked about this with Sean, and he loves it. So, and he's the one that gets a lot of feedback from people looking at the install prices. And
so were there ever any promises made about this, a specific cost or a specific monthly cost or anything like that during your time working with NYC Mesh?
Sorry, was there any?
Have there ever been any let's say, has there ever been any literature claiming about specifics on pricing, either now or in the future or in the past, saying in the past there were things saying the price will, let's say, be some amount of money for some amount of time. Do you recall anything like that you've seen with all of your participation in NYC Mesh?
Oh, or it's just mentioned on the website what the current install costs are, and they get emailed those 3 options when they schedule the install.
So you're not aware of like any literature about that or anything?
Yeah, it's all over the website. We can change that.
Got it. One follow-up, is NYC Mesh a business or a nonprofit?
It's a non-profit.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to clarify. I do think there's a place where it is in writing, at least for the building that I had worked on, Olmsted. I'm pretty sure in the agreement it says $200 a month or $250 as an introductory price, and then it goes to the normal price. So yeah, I'm in support of changing it because I've gotten from the 20 installs I've done there. A lot of times people don't really understand what's going on, to the point where I just say, okay, just do it all on cash, and we don't look at the website. And I think the $30 a month would be a lot more understandable of a concept for them, but that isn't in the agreement that we have written with them. So I think it's more advantageous, but maybe we'd have to go and revisit that written agreement if we were to change the payment process.
Yeah, the Olmsted and some of the other huge building installs have very specific agreements.
But it would be worth doing, I think, given there's 20 of 400 units hooked up at the moment.
Worth changing to 30 a month? Or
yeah. I think that might help people understand a little bit more, because that's more in line with what they'd expect of a typical internet provider.
Yeah, it's the install fee is so complicated to explain to people.
I have maybe one comment and then one question. My personal opinion is that it doesn't matter how much money anybody makes, and every time someone says that they're upset because someone they think is wealthy doesn't donate, goes against the mission of the Mesh, from my point of view. We're here to hook everybody up to the internet, not just low-income people, not just wealthy people. So that's my personal opinion, but when I've done installs, I don't care if they're in $1 million home or a $10 home. I'm just happy that they're getting internet that isn't from a corporation that is subsidized by the government. I think I'm with John in this one, right? Like I agree with you that it is somewhat complicated. I think that the optionality, though, is nice, and it would be good to understand. I think removing a front-loaded install cost has risks, right? Because if we offer people $30 a month, but we continue our policy, which I wholeheartedly agree with, that no one gets cut off if they stop paying, I think that we run a higher risk of not recouping the cost of our equipment, right? Now, again, there are pluses and minuses to both, and I think we might have to just kind of study it more. Or perhaps it is, well, maybe it's more complicated to have more options, right? But when I've done this, most people just kind of get it, right? And the way that I explain it is, it's $240, or you can pick the $160, or you can do whatever you want, to be perfectly honest with you. If they don't, the advantage of just an upfront install fee is that once they pay that install fee, we're good, right? Maybe we're off $10 or $15. And if we go to 6 gigahertz, that's a different conversation of how much that's going to cost. But my point being, if we recoup that cost up front, then it genuinely doesn't matter if they don't donate every month, because we pretty much broke even. But I think that, there are pluses and minuses. I don't really like the work from home thing. Like I get the idea of it. Like I get subsidies from my work for internet, and I continue to donate, and I put that forward. I think it just needs more thought into how we word that, because then it sounds like we're telling people that, like, oh, you work from home, you have to pay more, right? Because it's just important that we don't establish the idea that there are any tiers of service, that there are any subscription plans or anything like that, because then it sounds more like you have a contract, and I think that's one advantage, right? However, again, just in summary, I do agree. I think that this is overall kind of a good idea because I think for a lot of people, the idea that I have to pay $240 today is a barrier, right?
I think another interesting corner case is for DIY, where if you just go out and buy your own equipment, then I don't know how that falls into this. And the way that I personally have explained every time I go on an install is we're not a hardware seller, right? Like you could go on our website, you could find the links to buy any of this equipment yourself. So we're just being a nice little pass through to you effectively so that it simplifies the experience. So it's harder for me to explain that process when it becomes like a financial monthly thing and all of that, rather than just, you could DIY it. I'm here as a volunteer. I'm here to help you. I can help you provide it to you, but this is what our cost basically is. So I'm just passing it straight on. It's no different than in my eyes on how a DIY would be held or how like a regular install would be held. It's just, am I buying the equipment or are they just passing through the equipment straight through? So I also agree, I do not get paid a stipend from my company for work from home, and as well as many other benefits. But yeah, I don't love the messaging of work from home costs more. I get enough from that from.
I think it can't be emphasized enough that it's community-owned infrastructure. It's not an ISP.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 questions. Could you go back like 2 slides, maybe one more back? That one. Yeah. At the bottom there, it says not enough people are donating monthly. It's my understanding that about half of all active installs are donating monthly.
Yeah, it in the early days it was around over 90%.
I guess my question is like, what percentage would be enough, right? Like, you haven't outlined a case here of like we are, we're losing a bunch of money, we're in financial ruin, and we need to solve this problem. Like, how many would, like, if it was 60%, would that be enough? If it was 90%, would that be enough? Like, I guess I would be careful of like, what are we chasing here? Like, what is really the objective?
Just to be sustainable.
Is there any evidence that it's not sustainable currently?
No, we're doing okay, but we're bringing on a huge number of apartments like at Olmsted, and if we, it's $900 a month to get the fiber to Olmsted, and if we don't cover that with a monthly, then we've got problems.
I mean, I agree on that. I guess maybe there's a whole other can of worms there around like, we shouldn't be taking on expenses that we don't have a good plan to pay back, right? And I'm not sure that we have a good plan to pay back what's happening at Olmsted.
Yeah, the plan has always been to get more than 50 installs at Olmsted, and we're assuming that they would be mostly paying the monthly.
But from the data, we know that most people, like only half of people pay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what your argument. My argument is that this will increase the number of people that do monthly donations because they're already doing it.
I guess that leads into my second question, which is, are you concerned that we will seem like somewhere between like on the spectrum of donation to contract to scam, right? Right now we are firmly in the donation camp, right? It's very obvious that the monthly donation is optional. You don't have to sign up for it at all. This is sort of moving us more towards contract/scam, where like if it's required for a period of time and then it's not required, it kind of sounds like the sort of, oh yeah, don't worry, it's an introductory rate, it's a 2-year contract, like some of the same language that like the commercial internet service providers are using. I mean, I agree that this is complicated too, but I worry that like we are by copying their structure of like there's a different thing for a limited period of time that will fall into some of those same rhetorical slots in people's minds.
Yeah, we have had that $40 option for about 5 years now, but, which is exactly the same as the $30 option I'm talking about. But yeah, these are all things we can continue to discuss. But it seems like the general consensus is it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I do like the idea, like recurring revenue is useful, and the fact that we have the recurring revenue is what has let us do all of these amazing projects. I just think we need to be really careful about it.
Yeah, we'll just like we send the email after 10 months and let them know that, and give them the options to change their donation and whatever.
I mean, like we can talk about the details. I don't know that like a random email at the bottom of my inbox is gonna, move the needle, but I've already taken enough time, so yeah.
Okay, so we should move on to we got one more question.
So thank you, Brian. I know that you're in the hot seat here, right? Because you're bringing up a very controversial subject. So I really appreciate you bringing it up, especially in a public forum like this. What I'd like to do personally is I'll look through the install data from Jason and from others, because I would actually really like to see, and I'm totally neutral on this, of like assuming a 50% or a 48% or whatever our current subscription rate is, if we call it subscription or donation rate, like what's the break even, right, for these different plans if we look at it, because I think that would probably give us a little bit better idea of which is more feasible, because we're in a good place financially. Of course, no one's going to argue with more money, right? So, but I think it would be great to see some data behind it. And I'm a bit of a Excel nerd, so I would love to just poke at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next presentation.